Have you ever pondered about the lives of the children of the world's most infamous terrorist, Osama bin Laden? A question not many would think to ask, but an intriguing one nonetheless. Osama bin Laden, a name etched into the annals of history, a figure synonymous with terror and extremism. But there's another side to bin Laden, one less known and often overlooked. Bin Laden, the father. You see, Osama bin Laden was a father to around 20 children, born from several wives. He was a man who led a life shrouded in secrecy and cloaked in infamy, but within the confines of his compound walls, he tried to provide a semblance of normalcy for his children. Despite the world knowing him as a terrorist mastermind, to these children he was simply their father. Imagine, if you will, growing up within these walls. The world outside filled with terror and fear, but within, a father trying to shield his children from the life he himself had chosen. Bin Laden, despite his extremist beliefs and actions, attempted to instill a sense of normalcy in his children's lives. He tried to be a father first, a role that often contradicted the one he played outside his home. These children were raised under the paradoxical umbrella of a man who was both a loving father and a feared terrorist. They were nurtured in an environment where the lines between right and wrong were often blurred, between love and hate, between peace and violence. It's a dichotomy that's hard for most of us to comprehend, but it was their reality. But what became of these children, you might wonder? Did they follow in their father's footsteps, or did they carve out their own paths? How did they reconcile with their father's legacy, and how has it shaped their lives? Each of these children has a story to tell, a story that's been hidden from the world, a story of living in the shadows of their father's notoriety. But what became of these children, you might wonder? Let's delve into their stories. Living as a bin Laden meant a childhood shrouded in secrecy and cloaked in the shadows of their father's deeds. Imagine growing up as a child of Osama bin Laden, a man whose name is globally synonymous with terrorism. For them, childhood was an intricate tapestry of paradoxes woven with threads of normalcy and extreme ideology. These children, each one born into a world already tainted by their father's name, were raised under the strict tenets of bin Laden's interpretation of Islam. Yet, despite the severity of their upbringing, there were glimpses of normalcy. They chased each other in the desert, played soccer under the scorching sun, and studied diligently, receiving their education from tutors who came from far and wide. Speaking of education, it was a peculiar blend of conventional subjects and extremist indoctrination. While they learned about mathematics, languages, and sciences, there was also a heavy emphasis on religious studies, skewed to align with their father's radical beliefs. These lessons were often underscored with an intense hatred for the West, sowing the seeds of radicalism in young, impressionable minds. Yet, there was a strange dichotomy to their lives. Despite the extremist ideology they were immersed in, they also experienced moments of childhood innocence and joy. They celebrated birthdays, they played with toys, they laughed and they cried. But these moments of normalcy were fleeting, overshadowed by the looming presence of their father and the dark path he had chosen. As they grew older, their lives began to reflect the stark contrast between their father's world and the world outside. Their father's actions, his choices, and his beliefs cast long shadows over their lives, shaping them in ways they could not yet fully comprehend. The world of their father, filled with extremist ideologies and a perpetual war against the West, became the lens through which they viewed their own futures. This was their childhood, a strange juxtaposition of normalcy and extremism, innocence and indoctrination. They were children of Osama bin Laden, living in the shadows of a man whose actions reverberated across the globe. As they grew older, the impact of their father's actions began to shape their own destinies. In the early 2000s, the bin Laden family found themselves in a desperate situation. They needed to escape. Afghanistan was no longer a safe haven for them. It was a country under the shadow of war, a place where their father's name was synonymous with terror. The children of Osama bin Laden, innocent yet stained by their father's actions, were trapped in a life they did not choose. The decision to leave was not an easy one. It meant abandoning their home, their friends, their entire life as they knew it. But what other choice did they have? They were bin Ladens in a world that feared and despised their father. They needed to escape, to find a place where they could be just children, not the offspring of the world's most wanted man. The first leg of their journey led to Iran, a country that was, at the time, more accepting of them. It offered a chance at anonymity, a chance at a normal life. But living in Iran was far from easy. The fear of being discovered, of being linked back to their notorious father, lingered in their minds, casting a shadow over their newfound freedom. Yet even in the face of adversity, the bin Laden children refused to be defined by their father's actions. They yearned for a life untarnished by his legacy. They yearned to be more than just bin Laden's children. This desire fueled their journey, leading them next to Syria, another country that offered them refuge. In Syria, they found a semblance of the normalcy they craved. They could be children again, free from the constraints of their infamous surname. It was a small victory, but a significant one. For the first time they tasted the sweet freedom of anonymity, of being just another face in the crowd. The bin Laden children had managed to escape their father's shadow, but their journey was far from over. They had found temporary refuge, but the specter of their father's legacy was never far behind. The world may have forgotten them for a while, but they could never forget who they were, or where they came from. The death of Osama bin Laden in 2011 marked a new chapter for his children. They had spent their lives in the shadow of a man who was infamous worldwide. But with his death, they faced a daunting task: to live their lives away from the legacy of their notorious father and find their own identity. In the aftermath of Osama's death, his children grappled with a whirlwind of emotions. There was grief, of course, for a father lost. But there was also relief, a chance to step out of his dark shadow and into the light. They found themselves thrust into the world, carrying a name synonymous with terror and violence, a name that elicited fear and hatred in many corners of the globe. Living a normal life seemed like an insurmountable challenge. Yet they were determined. They sought education, careers, and tried to build a future distinct from their past. Despite the hurdles, they persevered. They faced the world with courage, proving that they were more than just the offspring of Osama bin Laden. Their thoughts on their father's legacy are complex. Some have publicly denounced his actions, others have chosen to remain silent. But one thing is clear: they are not their father. They have strived to distance themselves from his deeds, to show the world that they are individuals with their own beliefs and dreams. Yet their journey is far from over. They continue to face prejudice and suspicion. They still grapple with their father's dark legacy, a legacy they did not choose but were born into. But they remain steadfast, determined to find their place in the world, to prove that they are not defined by their father's actions. Despite their father's actions, the bin Laden children have strived to carve their own paths. They are a testament to the human spirit's resilience, a reminder that we are not just products of our past but architects of our own future. The bin Laden name carries a heavy burden, one that his children must bear. A name that echoes through the annals of history, not for its nobility but for its infamy. Yet, within this echo there are whispers of change, whispers of a new narrative being written by the very bearers of this name: Osama bin Laden's children. Many of these children, now adults, are striving to distance themselves from their father's legacy. In their quest for normalcy, they grapple with a complex identity, one that is overshadowed by their father's deeds. Their experiences vary, yet they share a common thread: the struggle to redefine the bin Laden name. Take for instance Omar bin Laden. Once groomed to be his father's successor, Omar has since denounced his father's actions and even called for peace. He is, in essence, a living testament to the power of individual choice, a beacon of hope that stands in stark contrast to his father's dark past. Meanwhile, some of his sisters have chosen to retreat into anonymity, leading quiet lives far from the public eye. Their lives may not be marked by grand gestures of defiance or dramatic declarations, but their quiet resistance is equally powerful. It is a silent proclamation of their desire for peace, for a life unmarred by their father's legacy. Yet the journey to normalcy is fraught with hurdles. The bin Laden name carries with it a stigma that is difficult to shake off. Everyday tasks like finding employment or forming relationships become Herculean tasks. But these children soldier on, their resilience a testament to the human spirit. The legacy of Osama bin Laden is undeniably intricate, a web spun from acts of terror and destruction. Yet his children, each in their own way, are striving to weave a new narrative, one that echoes not with the sounds of violence, but with the whispers of change. The children of Osama bin Laden, each carrying the weight of a name that changed the world. But in their hands, this weight is not a burden, but a catalyst for change, a chance to redefine the bin Laden legacy.